Peace. Welcome to episode 4 of the Open Mindedness video series. Today we want to talk about why we as Muslims are forbidden to eat the pig. This is a big issue because you know how people love them some pork. And they believe that it's the best thing on the planet, the best meat, the other white meat and all the other stuff. So let's get into it so that I don't make these videos too long because there's a lot of information to share. I can't possibly share all of the information and the research that has been put into it. But I'm just going to try to hit the main points very quick. So first of all, as Muslim followers of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, we believe in both the Bible and the Holy Quran, as I stated before in one of the other episodes. Now, because we believe in the Bible, in the book of Leviticus, chapter 11, you'll get into what is called the Levitical diet. In this Levitical diet, it actually tells us not to partake in the pig. Now, most people make the mistake that because Jesus came, now all of a sudden he's changed the law and said that the pig is okay to partake in. Well, that's not necessarily true. If it was bad for you then, and you were forbidden to eat it back then how come, all of a sudden God would just change his mind and make it okay to eat today? And we believe that if we pray over it or something along that line, that, God will wave a magic wand and just rid itself of all of the poisons and intoxicants in the pig. Well, that's not what mature adults would believe. So with that being said, biblically, we're forbidden to eat the pig. Via the Quran also clearly forbids us to eat the pig, but it also tells us don't eat the pig, but don't even touch its carcass. Okay, so we don't even touch the pig. We don't even touch the swine. We don't even touch none of that. Now, secondly, there's a worm called the trichina worm. And this trichina worm can be found in 2 places on the planet. One is inside of pigs, and the other is inside of humans. Now, the only reason that humans contain this trichina worm or trichina worm is because they consume pork. If we didn't consume pork, we wouldn't have the trichina worm in our system. Now, the trichina worm is a microscopic worm that once you eat pork, it begins to lodge itself inside of the muscles of the body. Once it lodges itself inside of the muscles of the body, it begins to look for the spine as they exponentially duplicate themselves. They're having babies upon babies. The males are sent through the bowel system or released from the body via the stool, but the females stay in the body and begin to continue to multiply. The trichina worm looks for the spine, and for those who are not too familiar with, the human body, the spine is connected to your brain. So it goes from your spine, climbs its way up, and then lodges itself into the brain. And once it gets into the brain, at a certain point in time, it was considered irreversible, where you couldn't turn back the hands of time, and you would slowly begin to lose all of these different brain functions. Now, I encourage you all to go on YouTube and look up a video called Mary's Brainworm. There was a woman who slowly started to forget her daily duties and daily activities, and the husband kind of was a little worried, but he didn't really trip too much. And then one day she came home and forgot her husband's name. Once she forgot her husband's name, her husband panicked, and he went immediately and took her to the hospital. Long story short, the doctor thought that she had a brain tumor and began to prepare her for surgery. So since they went and took her into surgery, as he's nipping and tucking through the brain, comes to find out he finds these little glass pellets, and he's like, man, what the heck is this? So he puts it under a microscope, and he looks and sees these little worms that were lodged inside of her brain, which was the cause of why she was losing the faculty of remembrance and the ability to recall what she had to do that day, and the names of her children and the names of her husband, etc. And again, it comes from pork. Fortunately, because they were already inside of the brain and they looked for the tumor, they began to pull out the many of these trichina worms, and then began to try to put her back on the path of rehabilitation where she could begin to function and live again. But that's a very rare case. Most people just die from it. So the trichina worm is the second thing. Thirdly, the origin of the pig tells us why we shouldn't eat the pig. To give a very brief history, and I hope I could get this in very fast because I don't want these videos to be long. But when the Caucasian was cast out of the Holy Land, which in the Masonic Lodge or in your fraternities, you have a rites of passage called crossing the burning sands. That crossing the burning sands ritual is really underlying story in it about when the Caucasian was cast out from the Holy Land amongst the original people back in Africa. And with that history, because we knew the science of life, and we knew that once we cast them out and sent them 2,200 miles across the desert, that at a certain point they would become so primitive and barbaric because they were detached from that high level of civilization, that they would begin to do the barbaric things that their history bears witness to. So if you research European history, you'll come to find out that, the cavemen and all of these type of existences, where they were eating raw meat and crawling around on their hands and their legs. They were not burying their dead. If somebody died in the cave, they would actually just keep it there and let it rot. At night when it was getting cold, they would cover their body in feces. So because of this wretched condition, which is not something to make mockery of, but is actually something to applaud, because to see them come from that condition to the rulers of the world is a story that should definitely be researched and duplicated. But nonetheless, when we understood that they would go into this condition, we grafted 3 animals, the cat, the rat, and the dog, and combined them to make a pig. The pig is a combination of those 3 animals, and it's actually in the Bible. It's in the book of Isaiah, I think chapter 44, but I can't recall, and I'll post it in the comments once I research and look it up again. But nonetheless, this lets you know the nature or the reason why the pig was made in the first place. And again, the ideas behind why something is brought into existence is what makes you understand its purpose and how to gain benefit, as opposed to getting harmful effects, rather, from things that are brought into existence. So that's another part of what the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us. But nonetheless, that's his history, and it was only made to go up and clean after the Caucasian, eat up all of those feces, eat up the garbage, because they didn't understand plumbing or sewer systems. So because of that, the pig was just there to do that for them, to keep them alive for a specific period of time until Moses could come with the Torah and civilize them and bring them up into a higher level of civilization. So that's the reason the pig was made, not to be eaten or devoured. Lastly, the word pig, when you translate it into the Arabic, and again in episode 1 we talked about Arabic being one of our original languages. Arabic, the word pig translates to al-khanzir, and al-khanzir means I see foul and very foul. All right. This lets you know again that it should not be partaken in, because the language and the wording itself and what it means lets you know that you shouldn't be eating it. There's a phrase that says you are what you eat. Well, if we are what we eat, why would we partake in something that involves itself in homosexual behavior, eats its young? When the weathers and the storms of life are gathering over its head, it's too busy in its lower self, devouring everything from the ground that is not even paying attention to look up. And as all of the other animals that are in tune with nature are running back into the barn or trying to seek shelter from this thunderstorm that's coming, the pig will sit there until actually the hail and the rain and the storm is falling on his head. Well, because we as black people are eating this pig, we're duplicating and exemplifying those same behaviors. So you look around at our community, homosexuality is a part of our culture now. It's something that everybody's into or experimenting with, right? The pig is the same way. Devouring our young. Are we really producing gods and bringing new life on this planet and trying to make the best out of that life? Or are we just bringing in more bodies to sit there and devour and to poison their thinking with all of these fairy tales and garbage that we listen to on the radio and these stupid TV shows that we put them in front of? So we're devouring our young just like the pig. And then if you look at the scientific body of the pig, it doesn't have a way of getting rid of the poisons that it builds up. There's only one hole that it comes out, and it's called the ooze or the pus that it oozes out of its backside. But on its way back through what it just ate, it's gonna devour that again and begin to eat the same ooze or the pus that came out of it. I mean, it's a disgusting animal. Just look at it. Just stare at a pig in his eyes and look at his face, and you can tell that there are certain things about the pig that are not made for man to devour in. So hopefully those points can be researched. There's much more to share. I really might have to do a part 2 of this video because there's so much information in regards to why we don't eat the pig. And the world is wising up, believe it or not. Muslim or not, Restaurants are becoming to be pork free. Whole Foods are pushing more healthier choices, and all of these restaurants and supermarkets are coming into better knowledge. So it's only a matter of time before this animal is widely accepted as being poisonous and that it shouldn't be partaken in. So I thank y'all for this time. Episode 4, why Muslims do not eat the pig. Peace.